got a A4 sheet of basic black cardstock. I've used 2 sheets of Whisper White. I've cut the 12 by 12 sheet down to 11 3/4, and then I've cut a square out of the middle, and this basically is my base, which I will glue down later. I then cut another piece of 12 by 12 cardstock, and I cut that at 10 1/4 by 10 1/4. So we are going to start with doing some embossing on our sheet before we start the inks. The embossing resists the ink, so when you put the embossed images down, you can then do your inking around them and they won't stay with colour. So what I've done is I've used a 2 1/4 punch to use for this project, and that's going to be my sun, and I'm going to do a beach sunrise project. So this is an embossing buddy, and this, rubbing it all over our sheet, because what this does is it takes out the static. I always forget to do it, and what happens is I get static. Black stamping emboss powder. I've got that there. I've got my Versamart here, and then I've got my stamps here. So I'm first going to put down a few palm trees. So I'm looking at the beach here. I want some palm trees here, some mountains here, the sun over the mountains shining this way. So I'm going to put a palm off. Happy with that. I'm taking the mountains, and now that I can see where that is, I can do some mountains. And don't be afraid to go over the top of what you've already done, but don't keep going for too long, because your ink will dry and the powder won't stick to it. And that's your mountains. Okay, happy with that. Okay, I think that's done. So I'm going to tear my sheet this way. Like that. Yep, there we go. And with pineapple punch, and take your sponges, and with a circular, I'm going to put that away now so I know where to go. With a circular motion, come onto here. Now the more you do your circling, the bigger the colour will be. And I didn't take enough of that glue off, did I? Now put your sun down, and what you want to do now is do a wider circle, because you want the yellow with your other colours. And you can see as you go over that embossed bit, it resists the ink. Now is from the sun, we want a reflection of the sun through, so we're going to come up this way and come up to there. So you've done behind the sun, you've now put your bit on top to now protect that sun. It's going to stay yellow. You've put a bit of yellow out everywhere, and now you're going to Daffodil Delight, which is a slightly deeper yellow. So this time you're going to come off the page and come in. and you can see immediately that that takes that colour up. Now you notice I touch on here first just to make sure I don't have a clump of ink, and it does take a while, but it's worth spending this time doing this. So that is your Daffodil Delight. Now we're moving to Pumpkin Pie. Now this is probably one of my favourite colours. It's quite strong, so at this point you don't really want to go near your sun. You want to sort of start going further out. So where you've just been with your Daffodil Delight, just come further out from it. And you're doing those circular motions. So I'm not bothering here because I know that my piece is going to go in here. So I'm not worrying about that too much. Happy with that. This is a colour I wouldn't have thought of. I tend to finish on an orange, but this is why I wanted to try this page today. Thank you, Dawn, because I would never have thought of this. So she's taken the Blueberry Bliss and she's just literally gone in on the outside and pulled it in. Kept it quite low at the top and then brought it in on the page sides. Now what I'm going to go back in with is my original colour, because that's what I do. And what happens now is it's a bit like when you're doing blending, you go in with your original light colour and just add that top tone. And just make sure that's blended. Second generation. I've got enough water in it. Just a bit up there, I think. And that makes it pop so well. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this onto here with my Tombow. And then cut off from the back. Okay, then I'm going to take my sentiment and actually pop it over here. And what I did earlier was put a deck chair down, but I don't think it needs anything else. I think actually a photograph would look much better here. Looking at this here now, if I were to just take piece of card, you see, put a photo there, and I'm not sure what size that is. Let's have a look. That would be 4.5 by 3 on base, and I am going to try and put this on straight. Take this off. Then I'm going to put dimensionals on this. Okay. So we have our back on, and we're going to pop this down in the frame, centre do. There we go. So then what we have then is a frame to then put a photograph on. And the backing, just glue, take this on. And that is ready for a photograph. So what do you think?